Hi, my name is Emily Church, and today I will be talking to you about the importance of building a culturally authentic children's book collection in your school or public library. Why is there such a focus on making sure the books in your children's collection are authentic? Well, for one thing, in the United States, 1 out of every 6 babies born is multiracial. This makes multiracial youth one of the fastest growing segments of our population. Because of this, there is a higher demand for children's literature that represents the diversity that we see in the U.S. every day. Every child that walks into your library is not going to be white, so why should your collection be? It took the United States until the late 1980s, early 1990s to finally start publishing a larger collection of multicultural children's books. Before this, there was an extreme lack of representation. However, this did not mean that these books were necessarily authentic and did not contain stereotypes. As shown by this graphic, out of the 3,600 books reviewed by the Cooperative Children's Book Center in 2012, only 3% were about African Americans, 1.5% were about Latinos, 2% were about Asian Pacific Americans, and less than 1% were about Native Americans. This means that 93% of these books featured primarily white characters. This was only 6 years ago. You may be asking, why does it matter if these books are authentic as long as they are representative of certain cultures? It actually makes a great deal of difference. Schleisman says, it is not enough to just have authentic multicultural literature on the shelves. It is important to normalize that children from all cultures can read authentic literature about cultures other than their own. Being exposed to cultural authenticity at a young age helps children to grow up respecting other cultures and develop an understanding of children from different backgrounds. Likewise, when children from diverse backgrounds see characters that look like themselves in books, they are given a sense of confidence, pride, and purpose that they can do anything. Who wouldn't want to give that to a child? When developing a culturally authentic children's collection, it is important to keep a few things in mind. You should select books that represent a multitude of cultures, also including multi- and biracial characters, books about refugee and immigrant experiences, books that portray LGBTQ characters, characters with disabilities, and non-stereotypical family units, such as two mothers or fathers, single parents, foster families, books where girls break gender stereotypes and boys break gender roles, and books that portray men of color in a good light. You should always review books for Clarke's 5 guiding principles. So when looking through books, you should review them for honesty, accuracy, reality, imagination, and appreciation. All in all, books should be informative and also increase the self-esteem of children. When building your collection, it is also important to evaluate your current collection as well as the books you're selecting for stereotypes and derogatory images that may have a negative impact on the collection. Check books for the absence of stereotypes, derogatory language, and parodied speech, accurate illustrations and historical or cultural information, and proactive roles for characters. Check illustrations for stereotypical clothing or portrayals of diverse families. This could include holidays or cultural traditions. What are the roles of the characters? Are the minority characters in subservient positions, or do they require help from a white character? You probably don't want to choose a book like this. Check the background of the author and illustrator. Are they qualified or do they have the experience to write about this culture? Be mindful of loaded words or words that may be insulting, racist, or sexist. It's also important to take notice of the copyright date. As mentioned before, most books published prior to the 1980s, maybe into the 1970s, are not culturally accurate typically. This bar graph shows the 3,400 books that were reviewed by the CCBC in 2016, 4 years after the graphic mentioned before. Out of 3,400 books, 278, or 8%, were about African Americans, 55, or 1.6%, were about Native Americans. 237, or 6.9%, were about Asian or Asian Americans. And 156, or 4.5%, were about Latinos. This means that only 726 out of 3,400 books published only 2 years ago in 2016 were diverse. This is a mere 21%. Luckily, you can help this cause by adding culturally authentic books to your collection. There are several great resources out there to assist you in building an authentic multicultural collection. They include the Children's Peace Education and Anti-Bias Library, the Cooperative Children's Book Center at the University of Wisconsin, the World of Difference Institute Anti-Defamation League, Teaching for Change, Scholastic, and the Bulletin of the Council for Interracial Children. There is a quote that says, "It takes nothing from one culture to respect another." I believe that this is the perfect example for why it is so imperative to build accurate and diverse multicultural collections for future generations in the United States. Exposing children at a young age to all cultures and fostering an appreciation and understanding for these cultures can hopefully lead to future generations living more peacefully and respectfully side by side. With the growing number of children from diverse backgrounds in the United States, it is even more crucial to provide them with literature that makes them feel empowered and inspired. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this presentation. I hope that you learned something and can take this information to create a culturally authentic multicultural collection for your young patrons and their families.